Thank you for stopping with us for the bits and bolts or your bi-weekly, monthly tech coffee break. As I would say always, but for a while it's been a mix of Stuart, me, Chandon, or just Stuart or Chandon on their own. It's back to the original duo. So Stuart Clark, the Africa Territory Manager, and me, Armaan Sami, the 42 Gears and the Dutch Territory Manager. Um, yeah, we got a few topics to cover today. First of all is Android 15. You should have all received as being partners with us and in our partner newsletter, unless you've said that you do not want these messages from us and you've opted out. There is a update to Android 15 that I'd like to make everybody aware of and explain a little bit more about. I will then show something about SureMDM Logs because I've seen this request come up often. You might see or hear from our pre-sales or our post-sales support team, get me logs. And I just want to go through how you can do this, where it's a little bit different, and explain some things about it. And then at the very end, Stuart will talk about custom compliance on Windows devices. So with that, we'll dive right into it. This is, I know it's a little bit, let me say, kind of like blurry, but hopefully you all can see it all right. It's not necessarily important that we read through all of it, but I just want to explain what this email is about. So we mentioned here, this email went out maybe 1 or 2 weeks ago, that Android 15, the operating system, is going through quite a bit of changes, especially for the enterprise space and enterprise customer. And one of the ways that this is going to be happening is that Android Enterprise, or let's say enterprise agents, this is where 42 Gears would ask you, or let's say you had a new device you were testing, and we would ask you, okay, what is the hash code so we could get you an enterprise agent or a plugin that would give you enhanced features like different script support, remote support, different permissions that you were able to toggle on or off with this. And essentially the way that an enterprise agent worked is that the manufacturer would give us their platform signature. And this is something which is almost like a master key, which is part of, or you can customize and set when you build the operating system for a device. So some manufacturers might have had one or a few master keys that they were giving, and they would always work with vendors like 42 Gears and MDM vendors in general to kind of exchange this key so we could have these advanced privileges on these devices. Now, you might have also heard of us using the term OEM agents, and these are two different things. However, they both perform the same thing in general. So what this change has done, and if you want to dive a little bit deeper into it and understand what exactly, like what the restrictions or why this is important, there's also a link mentioned here in our knowledge base where you can dive in here and it gives you some more explanation. But essentially, what is now required is that the device manufacturer will need to pre-approve, it's almost like a second form of authentication, our enterprise agent app to be able to use the key. So before we would just get the key, we could go in there, turn a switch, and we would have management of this device. Now, what we need to do is take this key to the vendor, but now when we're opening it or using this key to open the door, before the door opens, someone is asking us, okay, who are you? And we have to say, okay, we're 42 Gears or com.enterprise agent. And this needs to be embedded on your application. So on your firmware. So your firmware has to have these particular apps approved, and only these approved apps with this enterprise agent can, with the right key, the right signature, platform signature, can access these enhanced features. What this means is that we are working now with multiple vendors to make sure that our applications are, and when I say vendors, I mean OEMs, so device manufacturers, to make sure that our application is whitelisted on these approved apps. But what this also means for you is you have to be very careful about updating to Android 15. Because as you're going to do this, you will need to cross-verify that, for starters, that we are supporting, and this version of Android supports our operating system, the operating system inside of it supports the enterprise agent, and on the other side of it, that we have the right agent for that device. So before, you would come to our repository, you would just check and see, okay, here's the device, here's the hash code, here's the enterprise agent. That's all you needed to do. Now you also will need to verify, okay, does this device support the enterprise agent? Not just does 42 gears support this device. So there's a cross check here that we need to do. So before you upgrade, before you do, I mean, you can do some testing if you like, but just be careful before you update a user or a customer, or you get a new device that's shipped to you for some testing and it does not work. This is probably a reason why. So check with us, let us know if you have a relationship with a vendor and you want to make sure that this is done properly right at the beginning, at the original release of Android 15. Reach out to Stuart or myself or whoever your contact is at 42 Gears, and we'll be sure to help you get this all sorted out and verified, validated. I mentioned earlier, there's also something slightly different, which is called OEM. So we have the enterprise agent, and we had the OEM kind of profile or OEM agent. The difference here, and you might have noticed, for instance, this OEM agent is, I think at the moment, Stuart, correct me if I'm wrong here, but only available on Lenovo and Honeywell. And that's because they have taken a different approach to giving all these different features and access rights. So they are almost, I shouldn't say that too, Samsung's also been doing something very similar for a long time with Samsung Knox. So these three vendors have essentially given MDMs an alternative way to access these APIs and to do these enhanced features on a device without requiring platform signature. Actually, this is probably the most secure way to handle it, and this or the new Android 15 version further, because if a device manufacturer somehow got, or a malicious app somehow got a platform signature, then they could just take advantage or do much more on a device than they should. So I think that as time progresses, there will be a little bit of a period where we will be struggling to make sure all of these different devices are supported as they were before once they migrate to 15, but that we will also see device manufacturers moving towards this OEM agent kind of mechanism where they're giving not the platform signature, but different APIs for us to do, or different ways for us to do these things on a device. I know this is quite technical, and I even slurred my words, and I mentioned the enterprise agent or OEM agent or platforms in a few different ways. So please, if you have any questions, do throw them in the chat. Right now, I see there are none, but if you do have something, you want me to clarify something a little bit more, please don't hesitate to ask. Again, this is only really enforced on Android 15. Anything older, not a problem, but just be aware, especially if you're getting or testing like a beta or an early release of Android 15, just keep in mind that some features will not work. And if you have a vendor, which is maybe a smaller vendor that we are not talking to frequently, please check with us, connect us with them so we can ensure that they are whitelisting our application name, and then you have the support that you need. Major vendors and manufacturers, don't worry about it, of course, but if you have a smaller manufacturer, then it's good to check with them. Again, if you have questions, please feel free, drop them in the chat or reach out to Stuart or myself. But with that, we'll jump into the next topic, which is the logs in SureMDM. So I'm just going to drop out of MDM, of this slideshow, and switch over to my MDM console, make it a little bit bigger here. And I just want to show you all an easy way to get logs and some ways that they're different from device to device, and explain. So what I'm about to show you only works on Android and iOS devices. And there's even some differences from device manufacturers to device manufacturers on Android. So let me start off with this Motorola device here, my G34. And if I come up here to logs, I don't know if you've seen this, sometimes it gets hidden under the three dots. It all depends on how big your screen is. But let's say, for instance, you're testing something, it's not working as you expect it to, and a member of 42 Gears says, hey, can you just verify for me or share the logs? What you might have been doing, and this has been released for a while, but if you're a longtime customer of ours, you might have been opening up a remote session, and in the remote session, going through the different files and folders and trying to figure out, okay, where are the SureMDM logs actually stored on the device? So if I'm not mistaken, I think it's, yeah, see, even I have to click around a little bit for it, but once you find it somewhere here, there we go, documents, 42 gears. You have Assure Defense. I ran a scan on this device earlier, but you'll have Nix Enterprise Store, nothing there. And then you'll have SureMDM logs, and you'll have the agent logs. So theoretically, you could have come here and downloaded the logs, but there's an easier way to do this and to save all those back and forth clicks that I did earlier trying to find it. So if I just come over here to the SureMDM console, as I alluded to earlier, I can come here and click on logs. And there's a few things that you see in logs. Almost always you can export them, but first you see device logs. This is almost identical to what you were seeing down here at the bottom, but specific to this one device. So has somebody opened a remote support session, push a job, has anything changed, run a scan? All of this is available here on the system to view. I can also check device activity, where this device hasn't been online for long, but I'll show you before another device which is more frequently online, how this looks like. But you'll see a couple things: device info update, online status, and remote support. So remote support, you see that here I just started one and ended one, so that's that little brown tab here. But then you also see these device info updates and the online status. So this device has been online now for a while, but if I change it to make it, let's say 1 week is, I guess, here the maximum, but I can come here and change it. I'll be able to see that actually this device has been offline for quite a bit of time. Sorry, I have to scroll just so you see it down here, but it's a little bit of a mess. Will be offline for quite some time, and there's been spurts of it. But what I actually want to come down here and show you is troubleshooting. So down here, you have the option to export logs, either SureMDM agent logs or bug report logs, and or both. If you don't know which one you're asking for, the member of 42 Gears was not clear, just do both. But usually if it's something related to the agent itself, maybe a job is not working quickly or something is not through a SureMDM prompt or command, not responsive, it's SureMDM logs, and bug reports are more general Android. But you can come here and request them, give it a few minutes, and it will pop up here. Just in typical 42 Gears fashion, you'll get requested in progress, and then eventually it will give you a download link where you can specifically or just directly download this to your computer. Please note that this does take a little bit of data. You are transferring a 1.7 megabyte file, so just keep that in mind. And I think the bug report's even a little bit larger once it finishes. But quickly come to logs and download it. Now, again, this is a generic Android device. This is a TC27, so a Zebra device. What's going to be different here is, and I'll just come here to quickly show you here, by the way, too, similarly, breach has been offline for a while, had a longer remote session, a couple different heartbeats. But if I come over here to troubleshooting, I not only have SureMDM agent logs, bug reports, I also have RX logs. So as you're able to, I'm just going to request them so they start to come in. But as you can check RX logs by clicking on like a error or failed MX job and coming here, error, hovering over it and seeing exactly what's failed, what was the error or what went wrong here. You can also pull that from the logs option here as well. And again, this might take a moment, but with the RX logs, if you've pushed maybe a stage now configuration, or you're using a different Zebra specific, let's say command prompt or feature, you'll be able to see that in RX logs versus you might not be able to see it in that detail in the bug report. So just an enhancement here. And finally, just to show you, this is a iPad. I'm also going to come here for logs, similar and device activity will be similar. This device is online for always, plus minus. So you see here that the device info, and this is again those 3-minute intervals. This is when we're checking, okay, the battery status, apps installed, all these different things. That's happening frequently, and this device is consistently online, but there's no remote support sessions because, yeah, sorry, iOS remote support is still not that amazing. And just to come over here to troubleshooting, there is a slight difference here. You have attended and you have unattended. And for those of you which are, let's say, more versed or having some iOS projects, you'll understand the term supervised devices. I mean, just black and white, trying to kind of make a comparison here. A supervised device on iOS is comparable to device owner mode on Android. This means that you have, at the enrollment stage or at the initial connection to SureMDM or any MDM, you have made sure that this device is supervised, and you have made sure that this device has, or the MDM has, the complete availability for actions and things that they can do to a device. And in this case, attended means that the user will be prompted. They have to go through settings and export it. But unattended means that it will just automatically make the report and it will show it to you down here once it's ready. So pretty black and white, I would say. In most, again, like BYOD or shared devices where the end user has a lot of control, you'll be using the attended. And then if you are unattended, you have full control of this device. Maybe it's a kiosk somewhere or a tablet display, but you have enhanced features. Good. With that, those are my 2 little sections. Stuart, I see you talking, but I don't hear you.
Is that good? Can you hear me?
That's better. Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay, good. Just to add, sorry, I have noticed on some Android devices that specifically for the bug report, you actually have to drag down the notification tab and grant that permission too. And again, it's not always, but perhaps just for those of you who are connected, double check on the device, specifically on Android devices. There are definitely some that ask you. There we go. I see the option to be able to do that.
Perfect. Great point, Stuart. Thank you.
Good.
Awesome. Then with that, I'll hand over to you. Again, if you guys have any questions, anything comes to mind later, please just throw them in the chat.
Good. Are we? You got my screen?
Yes, now it's visible.
Good. Obviously I was going to chat around custom compliance on Windows, and this is something that was reasonably new. You will see, and I was having a look at a blog that was written on it towards the end of last year. There was a specific function that was included around compliance, and obviously compliance, for those of you who are familiar with what we do, has been there for a much longer period of time. But the ability to be able to create your own custom compliance, and specifically on Windows and Linux devices, is reasonably new. And so I would encourage you, obviously, to go and have a look at this blog, and I'm sure we can attach it to the recording that goes out. But I'm going to take you through it, obviously, and show you exactly the way that it works. And quite often within the region that I'm responsible for, this has come up, and I would say more so in the last few months than ever before. So perhaps worth sharing it, and that was part of the reason why I chosen to cover this in the topic. So interestingly, I was seeing as I was scrolling through this, we mentioned 12, and I know that there are some more specifically across all of the operating systems, but 12 of our compliance jobs that are valid or can be applied on Windows and Linux devices. This takes that and really significantly changes your possibilities. And just in the experimenting that I was doing, I was almost stumped as to what to use as the example of the PowerShell script, because the possibilities and the options are really extensive. So, but I've picked one or two, and I'm going to take you through the way to go about this. Let me hop into my console quickly. You will notice, obviously, for us as normal, this is found within the jobs section. I'm going to choose Windows. I have a Windows device online that I'm going to use. And towards the bottom, at least on the screen that I see within my screen resolution, you will find a compliance job. The traditional jobs, as you will see down the left-hand side, as I mentioned, there are a number of these, and obviously some that are specific to certain operating systems. And we show that to you when you go into that specific compliance job. You'll see it mentioned just up on the top right-hand corner, small icon or a small logo that defines which of the supported platforms are available in this specific compliance job. So I'm going to work on Windows. You will see obviously the drop down for Linux. And then there are two options. The first being the script, and that's what I'm going to cover today. This is using your PowerShell scripting compliant or availability. The second being using custom device properties. And I seem to recall, Armaan, and maybe you can remind me, I think we have covered custom device properties before on a previous Bits and Bolts episode. If we haven't, just a very quick cover is through account settings. You will see your custom options. Give me a second. I'm going to scroll down and show you where it's customize settings, device properties, and properties again. And over here, you will see those device properties that are already covered within the default configuration of SureMDM. And then an option to be able to go and create or add your own custom device properties. And so in this scenario, you would be able to trigger those device properties and create a rule or a compliance rule to take action based on that changing from whatever would be, I guess, the standard value within that device property. So I'm not going to cover that for now. The concept remains the same. I'm going to use the scripting method just because that was what I've used most regularly in the last couple of months, and I thought would be good to be able to show you. So I'm going to select using the script. And at this point, similar to our other compliance jobs, we have the possibility to define what that rule would be, and then a second tab on the right-hand side where we define the rule or the actions that we've taken if that rule is broken or is now out of compliance, as we call it. So, as I mentioned, I have a couple of scripts that I was playing around with. I think you will find that anybody who's more familiar with PowerShell than probably I am will know the thousands, if not more, of options. And what I thought would be a good option to be able to show you is specifically an option that speaks of whether the device is in safe mode. And I guess this is probably relevant to some and not so relevant to others, but a validation check as to whether somebody has booted a device, a Windows device, into safe mode. And you'll see just by looking at this script, and let me quickly copy this into my compliance job, you will see just by looking at it, it'll be a little bit clearer here. The response that we are expecting is the device is in safe mode, okay, and providing obviously the option. There are different safe mode options. Or what we're obviously expecting to see now, device is not in safe mode would be the response that we would receive when executing this script on the device. And so for the purposes of checking this quickly and just to show you, I'm going to hop back to the Windows device that I have available. I'm going to go into my PowerShell window, and I'm going to simulate essentially what the compliance job is going to do on the device. So right here at the command prompt, so paste the script in. I am going to hit an enter, and you will see I receive text back, device is not in safe mode, with a point at the end. And that's obviously the response that our rule is now going to ping on the device repeatedly to make sure that it's within the compliance that we've defined. So again, quickly back into my job. Here's the script. And then a little bit further down, I now build the rule associated with this script. So in my case, obviously compliant would be that I'm expecting the response of the device not in safe mode. So the name, I'm just going to call Bits and Bolts. The possibility to be able to define that return value, in this case, it's going to be a string, okay? I would like it to be equal to, because that would be when I am compliant, or potentially not equal to device being in safe mode. So again, you have the ability to be able to change these around. I'm going to say not equal to, and the value I'm pasting in from my script, device is not in safe mode. So if, in my case, the device is in safe mode, I am now going to trigger the compliance action. I'm scrolling down a little bit further. You'll see obviously some mention around the supported agent in terms of the Windows agent. It is the latest refresh of Windows agents as of a couple of months ago that you would best be on in order to work with this. We can choose the number of times or the polling period that the script would be run on the device to confirm the compliance. And in this case, obviously, it doesn't matter, but we have the ability to be able to run within the current user account that's logged in, or just within the system context. And as I was playing around with some of the scripts, for example, one of them is to confirm the user account that's logged in, and many other things related to that specific user account. And so obviously we would be able to choose it in that context. The other thing is that, remember, when this polling is happening, we may receive an error. It may be a particular script that you're running, which perhaps at that point in time is sitting in an error condition and doesn't necessarily give you a response. And for that, we have the ability to be able to control what let's call it an error response would be. Is that compliant, non-compliant, or to take no action? And obviously you would select that based on the way that you're expecting to be able to run your compliance value. We've defined the rule. Again, as I said, options to be able to build a number of rules if you had extended that script to give you much more in terms of the response. And then the out of compliance action being, as you would be familiar with in many of our other compliance jobs, what we choose to be able to trigger based on that response having now been out of compliance. And many options, including obviously applying a job that you could expose or expand your options significantly within your current customer console. And perhaps also just a reminder, and I'm going to choose two of these just to start, that you can also delay these. There is an option to be able to execute something immediately, perhaps a warning or a notification to the user itself, and then a slightly delayed action perhaps taking place if nothing has changed on that compliance action immediately after that. So just a reminder also, these compliance jobs are set and delivered to the device in either an enforce or a remove action. So you enforce it or you remove it if you no longer want that compliance job to be in place. So quick recap. You will see, as I said, I've chosen a script around safe mode. I know, or I have tested within my PowerShell terminal window what the response is likely to be in this case, obviously in my in-compliance state. And I then can define what that rule would be outside of that, and whether it needs to equal a particular value, or how I'm expecting that response to trigger what would be our out of compliance action. And obviously the polling period and how you wish to track an error in that particular environment. Again, looking through those thousands and thousands of scripts, an error condition may actually be your trigger for the device being non-compliant in many of those. So yeah, so it's something that's very helpful to be able to extend that compliance rule past there. And then obviously our definition of those actions taken based on the fact that the device is out of compliance as we've defined it. So again, just a quick reminder, have a look at that blog if you have any questions. The concept across the other, and although I can't show it to you, you will see, for example, in this custom compliance option within the Linux space is exactly the same. An option to be able to do it through custom device properties or through scripting, and then you build that exact compliance rule again. This is what I'm expecting. This would be what is compliant or non-compliant, and these are the actions that I wish to take as part of that. Good. I hope that's clear for everybody. I obviously, as I showed within the PowerShell script or within the PowerShell terminal, this is what's going to be happening in the background of what is polling through that compliance job. It's not really something that we'd be able to show based on the sort of quick check of the compliance in that polling period. But I hope this is clear for all of you. Let me hop back into our slides, and just a quick reminder for those of you obviously who are newer to Bits and Bolts. Gabby is checking the list of attendees and has her calculator out and is tracking all of those who have joined us on a more regular basis and towards the end of the year. tallies all of those up and gives us an opportunity to do a lucky draw. And obviously your entries based on the number of times that you've attended bits and bolts give you a much larger chance at being able to win those lucky draw gifts that are available. And then just lastly, questions, please, if there aren't any. I actually haven't had a quick look. Armaan, did you see any questions? No questions come through. Obviously, if anything related to our partner marketing or anything that you may need Gabby for, Gabby is available, and the rest of the partner marketing team is available on partnermarketing@42years.com, and our tech support team 24/7 at tech support, or as I've said before, via a number of other ways. Intercom, web ticket, or give them a call. There are many options to be able to keep in contact with our tech support team. And I think we are at our last slide. Yeah. Happy summer again to those of you in the northern hemisphere. For those of us in the southern, it's the complete opposite. I just in South Africa at the moment, there is a cold front heading through that's dropping snow on a number of places of the country. So completely different to what we're wishing those of you. But and the rest, obviously, hopefully good to see you all on the 6th of August. Anything to add on, or have I covered the summer and winter part in detail enough?
I think you covered it pretty well. I was going to try to make a joke at the end, but I think how you flipped it on itself by saying complete opposite did it for me. So thank you very much, everyone. See you on the 6th.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Cheers.